The story begins with a girl who is scared, like being chased by something, whether it's an evil creature, a sadistic robber, or some other supernatural entity. As he came out of the dark secret tunnel and intended to escape to save himself, suddenly a mysterious figure emerged from the darkness and instantly finished him off. The story then shifts to 5 teenagers who are traveling together in a car, in search of Clover's older brother who has been missing for 2 weeks. In the car, there is Clover still asleep. Max, wearing a blue shirt, looks relaxed. Megan, a Chinese girl with a calm face. Nina, the girl with the piercing, looked worried at the thought of brother Clover's state. And Abe's driving the car. They all unite to find Clover's sister, the girl we see at the beginning of the story that ends tragically. Now, Clover feels the need to seek the truth about her brother's whereabouts, fully supported by her friends. Arriving at the rest area, Clover again sees the last video recording of Melanie, her sister, which shows the background of the video call at that place. Clover decided to go into a nearby store and ask the owner directly. After entering, while pretending to buy a drink, Clover shows Melanie a photo and asks the store owner Hill if he has seen her around the area. Hill, who is used to many visitors stopping by, admitted that he could not remember every face that came across. However, he added that Clover is not the first to search for missing people in the area. Other visitors have asked similar questions. Hill then gives a warning that up there is a valley called Glore Valley, where people who stay there reportedly never return. Hill suggests that Clover look for her brother elsewhere for their safety. However, instead of listening to Hill's advice, Clover and his friends decide to go to the mysterious Glore Valley. This decision was not approved by some of them, resulting in bickering between the groups. The atmosphere became even more tense when Abe claimed that he could not turn around, as if their car was stuck in a lane that had no end. As they choose to continue their journey, a sudden weather anomaly known as a rain boundary occurs, a rare condition in which rain is seen forming a clear line or curtain separating the rain-affected area from the dry area. This sight was enough to amaze them, and they decided to capture this rare moment by taking photos and videos up close. Long story short, they finally arrived at the inn Hill had intended. The atmosphere around the inn was very quiet, like there were no signs of life at all. While waiting for the rain to subside, they decided to go inside the inn, hoping that the owner could provide the information they were looking for. However, after entering, they did not find anyone inside. Nina felt that there was something odd about this place. Even though it was quiet, all the items and surroundings looked neat and clean, as if they were taken care of every day. Inside the inn, they found an old-school hourglass whose condition was still very well maintained, as well as a house lamp that was still functioning properly. Nina also finds an empty guest book, and out of curiosity, she decides to fill it up, leaving a trail of their presence in this mysterious place. On the other hand, Megan, who was in a hurry, went to the toilet to relieve herself. However, when going to use the facility, he was disappointed because the water in the toilet was not there. Meanwhile, Abe is still engrossed in photographing antique objects in the inn, in accordance with his hobby of photography and making short videos with a cinematic touch. When entering one of the rooms, Abe found some old photos and newspapers pasted on the room floor. After taking a closer look, Abe was surprised that all the photos were a collection of photos of missing people, without any explanation of the cause or reason behind the placement of the photos in a public room like this. But what makes him even more awkward is when he finds a photo of Melanie, Clover's sister, also among the missing persons photos. This discovery raises a big question mark in Abe's mind about what really happened at this inn and how Melanie's photo could be there. While Clover is still outside, observe the surrounding area carefully. Suddenly, he was startled by a whisper very similar to the voice of Melanie, his older sister. The sound was followed by the appearance of a shadowy figure that was faintly visible behind the thick fog, and the figure seemed to move away. Clover, who was curious and felt that something was wrong, immediately followed him. However, he found nothing but increasingly thick and confusing fog. Just before he gets further away, Max shows up with a worried face and hurriedly pulls Clover out of the area to prevent her from unwanted harm. Long story short, at night, when Nina looked back at the previously empty guest book, she was immediately surprised to find Melanie's name already filled the pages of the guest book. In fact, before that there was no one else in the house besides them, and Nina herself filled out the guest book in advance. Shortly after, Abe appears and shows Nina and Megan his find, a collection of photos of missing people displayed in the room. They realized that there was no contact information or address for the people in the photos, making them even more confused about the purpose behind the photos. Not quite there, Clover and his friends were again surprised when the hourglass that had not moved before suddenly turned and returned to normal. This oddity was followed by the discovery that Abe's car had disappeared from the parking lot. After searching, they found the car in the rain with the engine running. They suspected that someone had deliberately moved the car, or maybe someone was playing with their car. When the driver rang the car loud enough, they decided to go back inside the inn. As they were about to call 911 for help, they realized that there was no signal in the area. Abe and Nina decide to watch the situation from behind a window, while Clover and the others search for a landline phone that might still be usable. Upon arriving at the basement, which was quite dark, Max was surprised by the window in the basement. However, Clover managed to find a landline phone and immediately called 911 for help. While trying to call 911, Clover realizes that the phone is not working. Megan then tried to use a radio that happened to still be turned on and tried several times to call for help. However, all they get is an indistinct sound with no signs of a response. Meanwhile, Abe and Nina are distracted by a voice coming from the direction of the kitchen. To make sure everything is fine, Nina is asked to keep an eye on the car while Abe goes to the back to check. However, when checking, Nina was surprised to see the figure of a mysterious masked man who immediately finished off Abe and then herself. The sound of Nina's screams makes Max go upstairs. Then he rushes back to the basement to tell Clover and Megan to hide, because the masked man seemed to have learned of their presence inside the basement. When Max tries to fight the masked man, he dies in an unequal fight. Megan is also found and brutally murdered, with Clover witnessing firsthand how the masked man finished off her friend. In desperation, Clover stabs the masked man in the back with a kitchen knife, but apparently that's not enough to bring him down. Panicking, Clover decides to flee into the woods. But when Clover is stabbed in the back by a masked man, suddenly everything turns around. The exhausted hourglass turns back from the beginning, and Clover and his friends come to life again as if they had just arrived at that place. At first, Clover thinks the previous incident was just a dream, but Nina denies it when she finds her name listed twice in the guest book, even though she only filled it in once. This strangeness further added to the confusion and fear between them. While they were puzzled over what had happened, Megan suddenly fell into a trance and fainted. The situation gets even more stressful when someone bangs hard on the door and forces to enter. The curious Clover immediately went out to check, but did not find anyone there. To his surprise, opposite the inn suddenly appeared a house that had not previously existed. And without warning, Clover is pulled away by an invisible figure, leaving her friends in confusion and fear. Clover is taken to a creepy abandoned house with some creepy mannequin pieces. Inside the house, she found a grandmother sitting quietly watching television, as if nothing had happened. Clover tried to call for help, but the grandmother did not respond. When Clover decides to run away, he finds the door jammed and cannot be opened. As he turned around, the grandmother suddenly appeared in front of him with a terrible face and said that the only way to get out of that place was to hold out until dawn. The atmosphere becomes even more tense when something strange begins to happen to Clover. Turning to Abe and Nina, who intended to run away with the car that was suddenly parked in front. However, just about to leave, another psychopath appears who intercepts and brutally finishes them both off. Meanwhile, Max searches for Clover and discovers the body he thought was Clover's has been turned to ashes. Max continued the search up to the top floor, but did not find him there. Just as he was about to leave, suddenly a masked woman appeared and instantly finished him off. And again, they all come back to life, with an hourglass repeating its rotation. Nina was shocked to see the guest book that had returned to increase, as if the cycle of death and rebirth kept repeating itself. Megan looked weak with hair that began to fall out. Likewise, Nina, Clover, Abe, and Max also experienced the same thing, their bodies getting weaker because they did not have time to eat and drink while trapped in that place. Fatigue and fear haunt them even more. While gathering, Abe idly turned on the tap that now had water. He immediately drank it without hesitation, followed by others who were also thirsty. Clover then tells him about the words of the grandmother he met earlier. Max deduces that perhaps they are trapped in a time loop. Based on Clover's story, Max argues that the only way to survive is to stay alive until dawn. Shortly after, Abe had a cough of blood and suddenly his body exploded. Nina also experienced the same thing. Megan suspects that perhaps the water they drink is toxic. Megan's guess was proven when her legs and then her whole body exploded as well. Clover thought that they should make an escape plan from the place. However, before the plan can be executed, Clover and Max also explode. After the explosion, they all come back to life, trapped in a constantly repeating circle of death. Having become accustomed to death, they now do not care much about the terror that will befall them. Clover and his friends begin to focus on finding clues to solve this mystery. While rummaging through the files, Clover accidentally finds some business cards with Dr. Hill. Upon closer inspection, Clover recalled that Dr. Hill is a guy she met at a gas station some time ago, and this may be the key to understanding what's going on. Not only was it a surprise, Abe also found interesting facts about the dark history of this city. 20 years ago, the city was the largest gold mining center in Pennsylvania, but in 1996, a terrible landslide caused by drilling too deep killed at least 1,100 people and submerged the entire city. This place later became a symbol of fear with its dark history, which was exploited by Dr. Hill, an intelligent psychologist assigned to help survivors cope with trauma. However, Dr. Hill found a loophole to fuse a person's deep trauma with this terrible place. While Abe is going to look for a tool that can be used as a weapon to survive this night, Max idly plays some old-school tapes found near the TV. It turned out that the tapes contained documentation of Dr. Hill on the survivors to find out how long they can last. Dr. Hill believes that a person who experiences severe trauma, intense fear, excessive anxiety, feelings of hopelessness, extreme hunger, and being confined in a place like this for a long period of time will affect emotional and physical changes for the sufferer, as happened to the survivors in the video who turned into windigo creatures or the most terrible cannibals. Shortly thereafter, Dr. Hill was heard over the radio, explaining that they were all selected as the material for the next experiment. However, Clover, who was already indifferent to the experiment, immediately expressed his goal to find Melanie. Dr. Hill then offers to meet Clover with Melanie, as long as Clover is willing to meet him alone. When Clover is gone, Max and Megan decide to follow Clover into the forest. Meanwhile, Abe and Nina are asked to stay indoors. However, Abe and Nina couldn't last long as the masked man suddenly appeared and instantly finished them both off. On the other hand, Max and Megan are already in the forest calling Clover, but they find a Wendigo figure that scares them and immediately run away from there. After surviving the Wendigo's pursuit, Megan instead got stuck on the fragile glass and fell with the Wendigo, who immediately dragged her to nowhere. Max is forced to let Megan go and continue the fight alone. After going deep into the forest, Max finally finds Clover trapped in a pig mine. However, before they can escape, Melanie appears in full Wendigo form. Clover was shocked and couldn't believe the change in Melanie. Max quickly leads Clover away and hides behind the fence behind the inn. Realizing that that night they will not survive, Clover invites Max to die once more and attempt another escape the next night. With a heavy decision, they both chose to commit suicide in their own way. This is where they now gather again in the living room, with Clover beginning to be confused by the ever-repeating cycle of death and rebirth. After checking the guest book, it turned out that they had already repeated the evening for 13 days. Physical and mental changes begin to be seen in Abe, which makes them realize that their time is getting shorter. They immediately look for weapons to fight the approaching Wendigo. Suddenly, Clover was startled by the Wendigo that appeared in front of him, and they all immediately ran for their lives. After successfully surviving the Wendigo chase, they now have to deal with a masked man who blocks in the living room. Max tells Clover to focus on finding Dr. Hill, while he and the others would resist and fight the masked man with all their might. With a hard struggle, they manage to finish off the masked man. Meanwhile, Clover meets Melanie again, who attacks him immediately. Clover tries to persuade Melanie, but to no avail. With sadness and a heavy heart, Clover was forced to fight back and finally managed to push Melanie until she was stabbed by a sharp stone. After that, the tension returned when one of the Wendigo managed to smell Clover's presence. Feeling he has no chance of winning, Clover chooses to hide until the Wendigo leaves. In the hiding place, he found a pile of corpses that he did not know the identity of. After a while of searching, Clover finally managed to find Dr. Hill, which is equipped with several CCTV to monitor their progress. Shortly thereafter, Dr. Hill appeared with a cup of coffee, as if enjoying the game in progress. In the end, it is revealed that Clover is the main target of this crazy experiment. Dr. Hill, who knows Clover's history of severe trauma after Melanie's loss, devises a plan to lure Clover to this place, while other friends just happen to get caught up in a psychological game played by Dr. Hill. Dr. Hill explains that Melanie and the other survivors who were thought to have disappeared actually failed to fight the fear and were trapped in the illusions created by it, which led to death from extreme hunger. This evidence further confirms the confusion Clover experienced when he found a pile of corpses earlier. When Dr. Hill still continued to speak, Clover saw drops of water from the leaking roof hit the table. Realizing that the water is poisonous, Clover secretly shifts the coffee cup Dr. Hill on the table. When Dr. Hill was about to sip his coffee, suddenly he exploded and died instantly.
It's you.
After Dr. Hill is killed, Clover rushes to retrieve the key and rescues Megan, who was earlier dragged by the Wendigo into the interrogation room. After successfully saving Megan, Clover then has to save Max, who is still in pursuit of another Wendigo. When running, suddenly Clover and Megan stuck in the ground. Lucky his friends came on time and managed to save him until finally the sand was finished spinning, indicating the game was over. Long story short, in the morning, with the rising of the sun and the disappearance of thick fog around the inn, indicating that they managed to escape from the psychological game made by Dr. Hill. They were the only survivors of the sadistic experiment. At the home of Dr. Hill, some CCTV is still active. Suddenly, a black van appeared, seemingly intending to stay overnight at the place. This situation leaves the impression that the horror is not over yet, and most likely there will be other victims who will be trapped in this terrible game again.